changing perception. In teaching about the concept of changing perception, a couple of ideas for you. One, I would do a little research yourself on the concepts of cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias. Just do a little study so you understand exactly what these words mean. Cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias. You don't have to be the world's expert on a topic. On the other hand, if you are going to use a psychological term like this, you have to be prepared. Someone asks you, what do you mean by cognitive dissonance? What is confirmation bias? So make sure that you're comfortable in asking those questions and answering those questions. Then looking at perception, I think it's very good if you could come up with your own personal story. For example, I had a question about changing perception where a gentleman said my wife's perception didn't change. Then I gave an example of my own son, whose perception didn't change, and then what I did to help change his perception. My idea is try this out for yourself. Pick something that is a perception you would like to change. Then you can start doing the follow-up, and you will see how, because you do this follow-up, perception actually does start changing. And it's very important to note the difference between changing behavior and changing perception. People think changing behavior is harder than changing perception. Wrong. It is much more difficult to change perception than change behavior. Then we have the Roman numeral case study, which is great fun. And here's what you do. You ask the group, do you have a Roman numeral watch? If they do, look at the watch. If it's 4 eyes, say great, they stand up in front of the room. It's actually more fun if they actually have a Roman numeral watch. It doesn't matter if they do, they almost always get it wrong anyway. Then, if they don't have a Roman numeral watch, you say, okay, let's do a Google search, Roman numeral watch. Then you look at the Roman numeral watch faces that they uncover. If it's an IV, don't use that one. If it's 4 eyes, use it. So when they're up in the front of the room, everyone has a Roman numeral watch they're looking at that does have the 4 eyes, not an IV. Then you say, have fun. You say, all right, what is the shape of the face of the watch? They draw it. Then you say, draw the Roman numeral 10, which is actually a distraction because the 10 is an X, just like before. So that gets them thinking about the old way they do Roman numerals, so they put X. Then you say, oh, that's great, that's great, that's great. Then you say, now draw a picture of the Roman numeral 4. Well, you look at what they write down. If a person writes down 4 eyes, you just say, please sit down. Almost everyone writes IVs, but occasionally someone will write 4 eyes. If they do that, you just say, please sit down. They sit down. Now, they don't know why they sit down. They're usually kind of puzzled, but you just say, please sit down. Everyone who's remaining standing has now said 4 eyes. Now, typically, come up with a great charity. A charity nobody's going to argue with. In the class I was there was a gentleman in the military helping veterans. Nobody's really going to complain about that much. Pick a helping kids, some positive charity that someone in the group can associate with. Then you can say, well, if you believe something, let's bet on it. If you bet real money, this can be very awkward, embarrassing, people don't like it. If you give all the money to charity, it's just fine. And by the way, at the end of the day, if they don't actually donate the money to charity, it's their problem, not yours. Don't even worry about it. Say, pick a charity. They all pick a charity. And then say, let's have a bet. Now, I said 1 to 100. It could be 1 to 10. It doesn't really matter what the number is. You could say $1. It doesn't make any difference. Then you say, I bet you're wrong. How much do you want to bet? Well, invariably, in most cases, people bet. Then you say, fine, look at the watch. They look at the watch and they realize what they thought was there is not there. And the learning point of the exercise is we don't see what's there. We see what we think is supposed to be there. Now, I'm going to teach you something that wasn't in the tape that you saw, which is a fun adjunct to this exercise. It makes the same point, especially with Americans. Ask a group of Americans, give me the state in the United States that's the furthest north, the furthest south, the furthest west, and the furthest east. Then you say, let's see how many of you can do this. And you have them go one at a time, and here are the rules. They can't change their answer, and they can't talk to anyone. So you say 4 questions. What state in the United States is the furthest north? They write it down. What state is the furthest south? They write it down. What state is the furthest west? They write it down. What state is the furthest east? 1 in 50 Americans gets this right. The state that's the furthest north is Alaska. Yet many Americans think of the 48 states, and they say Maine or some other state. They miss that. Most of them will get Alaska right. The states that's the furthest south, most Americans miss. It's actually Hawaii. Most Americans will say Florida or Texas. The states that's the furthest west, most Americans say Hawaii. The answer is Alaska, by far. And the state that's the furthest east is the trick question. The state that's the furthest east is Alaska. If you get a globe, Alaska crosses a 180-degree line, making it both the furthest west and the furthest east. So the answer is Alaska, 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 and Hawaii. Now, I did this exercise myself and got 0 correct. I thought about the 48 states, so I missed everything. Well, it's a great fun exercise. Now, let me explain why people get it wrong. When you're a little child in the United States, you're taught the states. You have a little puzzle map. And the little puzzle map, Hawaii is put directly across from California. That's not where it really is, but they couldn't do it to scale because it would be off the charts on the puzzle map. Alaska is between Hawaii and California. The huge majority of Americans answer the question in a manner that is exactly consistent with the 6-year-old puzzle map. Why? Once we establish that perception of reality, once that is fixed in our mind, we tend to see that for the rest of our life. So the answer, if you look at a globe, is not even close to correct. The answer, if you look at a 6-year-old puzzle map, is exactly correct. So this is another fun story you can use in adjunct to that. If you're teaching the class and use the video, that's a fun thing you can add with the video.